Hello, my name is Dr. Jesse Patrick Turner, and I'm the director of our CCSU Literacy Center. And today we've been working on a 3-part video clip series about me talking about 170 years of inequity in America's public schools, 2, don't believe the hype of reading wars, and 3, I want to get us at some solutions over there. So I want to begin solutions. First of all, we have to acknowledge what I began with. We have 2 reports that I like to talk about. The Alliance to Reclaim Our Public Schools gave a report in 2018 that talked about the inequity in American public education. And they, from 2008 to 2015, they talked about how we're literally talking billions and billions of dollars being owed. They exposed how states spend an annual of $1.9 to over $5 billion on standardized testing. That really brings us no results. And in 2019, Ed Build, Julian Vasquez Healy, Dr. Julian Vasquez, who's the dean at the University of Kentucky, and also the Washington Post, talked about Ed Bill's report about the death of old to poor black and brown and poor urban and rural schools. And they did a calculation. And in that report, they said America owes $580 billion to those schools. That's how much underfunded they've been. So anyway, I want to step back. That's just to let you know, bring us full circle. The inequity that we had in the beginning is still here. But we need to talk about solutions. And so I want to try to remember that when I was a young man, and Dr. Coretta Scott King, Dr. King's wife, made a statement at the Solidarity Day address in Washington, D.C., in Resurrection City. And she said, in this society, violence against poor people and minority groups is routine. I remind you that starving a child is violence. Suppressing a culture is violence. Neglecting school children is violence. Punishing the mother and her child is violence. Discrimination against a working man is violence. Ghetto housing is violence. Contempt of poverty is violence. Even the lack of will to help humanity is a sick and sinister form of violence. So if we understand that what Coretta Scott King was saying in 1968, she was telling us that violence is neglecting school children in America. So when we think about that, this inequity is a violence against our children. And it is, in my view, America's greatest sin since slavery. It has been gone on for 170 plus years. We've got education reform after education reform, test after test, standard after standard, curriculum after curriculum. But what black and brown children never, ever get is what those wealthy white schools get. That's the status of inequity, and that's a crime. So now, I said I would give us some solutions. I think there is a solution. I think that teachers, I think that parents, and I think that students must rise up. We must march to our state capitals, our boards of education. We should be in D.C. Actually, Journey for Justice will be in D.C. in September for a day of advocacy, and United to Save Our Schools will be there, and I'll be there. And we should be there demanding that our policymaking and our legislators and our leaders and our business community do the right thing. And what is the right thing? Fully funding our schools. And not just the same amount of money. That's not equity. It's the same ratio of services. So when I look at test scores in Connecticut, trust me, Darien, one of our wealthiest communities, is always on top. Bridgeport, one of our poorest communities, is always on bottom. So what's the difference? Darien has an endless amount of low ratio small numbers to the needed services. In Bridgeport, I may have a reading specialist that's expected to help 250 students, where in Darien, maybe it's only 5. So we need a massive influx. That $580 billion that Ed Deff talked about, we need an investment in our urban and our poor rural schools. That's what we need. We need parents to rise up, teachers to rise up, students to rise up. And we need our politicians. And I tell you something, you don't have to do it overnight. Let's do it in a 10-year period. For 10 years, let us increase the funding to our black and brown schools in America, to our poor schools. Let's do that. 10% every year. And in 10 years' time, we have all schools having fully funded and full equity. And then I'll tell you what, let's go back to the reading wars. Let's go back to the education reforms. When the field is level, then I say we can truly test the science. So my solution, rise up, speak up. When children are being abused, silence is not an option. Thank you. Fight the power. Dr. Turner.